Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are tackling something so fascinating, so universal, but honestly so rarely understood. We're going to dive deep into what I call the architecture of imbalanced greatness. Just think for a second about the people you look up to. You know, the visionaries, the record breakers, the absolute masters of their craft. We put them up on these massive pedestals, celebrate their every single move, and kind of treat them as if they've just figured out the ultimate secret to life. But as we're going to see today, the actual reality of greatness is built very, very differently than the fantasy we project onto it.
So, let's start with a really harsh question. Why do our heroes inevitably disappoint us? I mean, seriously, think back to a time when you found out something pretty unsavory about someone you deeply admired. Maybe you watched an interview where they came off as totally arrogant, or you read a biography that showed their personal life was a total train wreck, or maybe a massive scandal just completely shattered their public image. We have all felt that sting, right? But what if I told you that the disappointment isn't entirely their fault? What if the problem is actually baked right into the way we fundamentally misunderstand achievement?
Section 1. Why our heroes disappoint.
Okay, so the whole issue kicks off with a massive mismatch in how we perceive things. Society basically rewards and broadcasts the visible peaks. We see the best-selling novel, the championship ring, the perfectly polished public image. It's their highlight reel. But then there's what we don't see. And this is the gritty, messy reality beneath the surface. We absolutely don't see what they had to sacrifice to get that ring. We don't see the relationships they completely ghosted just to finish that novel. And we definitely don't see their often erratic or obsessive behavior when they step outside their specific area of excellence. We end up comparing our entire, messy, day-to-day reality to their perfectly curated highlights.
Here is a crucial realization. Greatness is often incredibly narrow. Now, I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but it is absolutely essential to get this. Our heroes are highly specialized individuals. They are not universally balanced ones. Think of them more like a laser beam than a floodlight. A laser can literally cut through solid steel, but only because all of its energy is intensely focused on one minuscule point. And because of that intense focus, it leaves absolutely everything else in the dark.
Section 2. The hidden trade-offs.
You definitely cannot generate that kind of laser focus for free. And that brings us to the defining concept of this explainer: imbalanced greatness. It's the idea that the exact same intense focus required to reach an exceptional level in one specific area inherently requires neglecting other areas of life. Listen, the imbalance isn't an accident. It's not some unfortunate side effect. It is literally the fuel for the greatness itself. You simply cannot dedicate 10,000 hours to a singular pursuit without, stealing those hours from your family, your hobbies, or your own mental and physical well-being.
To really ground this, let's look at the specific, incredibly heavy tolls high achievers pay all the time. To reach that exceptional level, people routinely sacrifice relationships. They might miss birthdays, anniversaries, or just the basic daily connection of being present for the people they love. They often totally ignore their health, running on zero sleep and pure adrenaline. They develop these obsessive habits that, to a regular person, look entirely neurotic. And fundamentally, they behave in ways that seem, unbalanced. And why? Because they are. They became great by explicitly neglecting all these other areas.
Section 3. Breaking the perfect illusion. So, what actually happens when we finally cross that barrier between the audience and the stage? What happens when you get to observe a hero up close? There's a very predictable sequence to this psychological experience. Step 1, you see their human side. You realize they get tired, they get cranky, they spill coffee on their shirts just like us. Step 2, you begin to notice their actual flaws, their deep-seated insecurities, or some really glaring hypocrisies. And then step 3, the ideal image completely collapses. The pedestal crumbles. The god becomes immortal. And man, that can feel like a profound betrayal.
But I want you to just let this sink in for a second. Nothing broke, the illusion did. Wow. The hero didn't suddenly become flawed the exact moment you met them. They were always flawed. The only thing that shattered was your own projection. We literally set them up for failure by demanding they be something that's entirely impossible.
The massive cognitive mistake we make is defaulting to viewing these high achievers as symbols of absolute perfection. We assume that just because someone can hit a flawless backhand or code a brilliant algorithm, they must also be perfect parents, perfect spouses, and perfectly enlightened beings. But no human being can carry that suffocating weight. We've got to shift to seeing them simply as examples of excellence in specific areas. They are masters of a domain, not masters of the universe.
Section 4. Every strength has a cost. If we accept that greatness requires this intense specialization, we have to recognize the direct link between specific types of greatness and their specific prices.
This inescapable law of trade-offs maps across almost every field you can think of. Take creative genius, for example. We love the breathtaking art and the transcendent music, right? But the hidden cost? It frequently comes paired with deep emotional instability or a really volatile temperament. Or look at unparalleled business success. We celebrate the billionaire CEO, but we entirely miss the extreme, chronic stress and the massive personal life trade-offs required to build that empire. Same goes for athletic excellence. We cheer for the gold medal, but we completely ignore the permanent physical strain, the destroyed joints, and the singular, rigid obsession required to train for it. So, the bottom line is this. Our heroes are often exceptional in one dimension of life, but that same focus may come at the cost of balance in others. It's basically physics. Energy directed entirely into one dimension is energy that's being actively pulled away from all the rest. Their lack of balance isn't a bug in their programming. It's the fundamental feature that makes them exactly who they are.
Section 5. Admiring qualities, not people.
Okay, so how do we actually navigate this? Are we just supposed to become totally cynical and stop having heroes altogether? Not at all. The absolute best, most actionable takeaway here is to admire qualities, not the whole person. You don't have to swallow the apple whole, you know? You can slice it up and take only the parts that actually nourish you.
We should be extracting specific, localized traits. Take their discipline. If someone wakes up at 4 a.m. every single day to write, use that to inspire your own work ethic. Take their creativity. Study how they connect completely random, disparate ideas. Take their courage. Look at how they fearlessly stood up to their critics. You are basically extracting the isolated tools that made them successful in their domain and then applying those tools to your own journey.
But, and this is a massive but, there are things you must actively avoid assuming. Do not assume their overall lifestyle is ideal. Do not assume their personality is whole, complete, or even pleasant to be around. And most importantly, please do not assume their life is a blueprint you should copy entirely. Adopting a hero's entire imbalanced life will likely just ruin yours, because you aren't them. And let's be real, you probably don't actually want to pay the hidden costs they are paying.
The true mark of wisdom and maturity is being able to hold this exact thought in your mind. I respect what they've achieved here, but I don't need to adopt their entire life. This is such an empowering stance. It allows you to freely applaud greatness where it exists, without feeling obligated to defend or emulate the person's flaws. It sets a really healthy boundary between your life and their achievements.
And that brings us to a final, stark truth. They are human, just like me. It's so simple, but it changes absolutely everything. When you realize that the greatest achievers in human history were just as flawed, unbalanced, and messy as the rest of us, it protects you from future disappointment. But more than that, doesn't it kind of make their achievements even more incredible? Because it proves that you do not have to be perfect to do something extraordinary. You just have to be willing to focus. So the next time you look at someone you deeply admire, I want you to ask yourself, what specific quality am I borrowing today? And what parts of their humanity am I completely fine leaving behind? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.